Hello everyone and welcome to a very special edition of 5th edition CR, whatever I'm calling it again, D&D CR Exposed. Yeah, there we go. It's been a few weeks since I've actually had to do a video for D&D because I did so many in advance I forgot what I was doing. In any event, if you like what I'm doing here and you'd like to get your hands on this tool that I'm using here, then you can do so in the links below at my Ko-fi page, where you can get this tool for the D&D CR Exposed tool completely for free, or you can donate if you feel so obliged. Otherwise, check all the links for various things. I've got subclasses and classes up for grabs that are currently in beta for testing and whatnot. Have fun with those. And some monsters and whatnot. Yeah, a whole bunch of things for D&D, as well as Tales of the Valiant, and probably some other stuff coming up soon at some point, whenever I can get around to it. But in any event, let's see what we're doing here. Today, we are looking at the Death Knight, and we're not looking at the 2014 edition of the Death Knight. We're actually looking at the Death Knight from the new Monster Manual 25 edition, 2025. Now, due to various factors, I will not be showing the source of this, but if you'd like to follow along, go ahead and open up your new monster manual to page 92, where you too can follow along for this small or medium undead chaotic evil Death Knight. So let's jump into this and see what we get for our monster here. So right off the top of the bat, we're using my old tool that runs on 2014. Now, in theory, because the new Monster Manual and the new Dungeons Master book don't have any updated information, we're going to see if the CR, which in this case should be a CR 17, holds out with my old tool with the new updates here. So, keeping that in mind, we have an AC of 20. It is either small or medium, but in this case we're going to stick with medium because the Death Knight has 21 D8 hit dice, so we'll go ahead and throw those in with the following scores of 20 Strength, 11 Dex, 20 Con, 12 Intelligence, 16 Wisdom, and 18 Charisma. Should be a CR 17 like we said before. And that's pretty much it. We have immunities for Necrotic, Poison, Exhaustion, Frighten, and Poison, but because we don't have 3 of at least some immunities, we don't really worry about that. And it seems as though immunities are basically gone as it is. Except for a few items here and there, we don't even have to worry about bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. So this may be useless going forward, that whole section. But I'll leave it in there for older monsters and if you use it for whatever case, but I highly recommend not using immunities or resistances. It just makes the monsters correct, and proper hit points and what have you. If you want your monster to live longer against specific things, give them more hit points. Alright, so next we have the traits area, and we have legendary resistance for 3 per day, so we will go ahead and click that, add in 3 there, giving us 90 effective hit points. And then we have magic resistance, which is the standard to go with legendary resistance. We have martial undead. Undead creatures of the Death Knight's choice in a 60-foot emanation originating from it have advantage on attack rolls and saving throws. It can't use this trait if it's incapacitated. Doesn't matter necessarily for the Death Knight. It will help the undead, giving them basically, blood frenzy. While within 60 feet, they basically have advantage on every attack, which means they have blood frenzy like the Sahuagin, and that would give, what is that, a +4 effective attack bonus? Yeah, so keep that in mind for any undead you are rolling around with your Death Knight. They are going to be much stronger. Probably at least like +2. And yeah, I'd say roughly +2 to the effective CR, which would then give them +1 to the overall CR, basically. So a skeleton would go from like a CR 1/4 to a CR half, or something to that effect. Probably even worse for such a low-level monster. But in any event, let's move on to Undead Restoration. And this is going to say if the Death Knight's destroyed before it atones, gets a new body, reviving all of its hit points. This doesn't matter. So we're going to move on from there and go down to the actions for our Death Knight. Now our Death Knight makes 3 Dreadblade attacks, and the Dreadblade is going to be a +11 to attack, which means it's coming from the strength here. So we'll go ahead and throw that in. And with that, we were going to see 12 slashing damage and 13 necrotic damage. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in 12 even, and then 13.5 for the necrotic damage. And we're saying 13.5 because it's 3d8, and every odd number of dice gives you an extra half die. After that, we also have Hellfire Orb, which recharges on a 5 or 6, so this is going to be once per 3 rounds of combat. And that is a Dex saving throw of 18, which is pretty much right on point for our Charisma. So that's more or less where that's coming from. And each creature in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point the Death Knight can see within so much feet will fail, will take the damage. And on a failure, taking 35 fire damage plus 35 necrotic damage, and half on a success. I really like the new way of how they're doing it. I'm just not used to seeing it in text form. So we are going to see, what is that? 35 for fire plus another 35 for necrotic. And then we're going to multiply all of this times 2 because it is a dex saving throw in a 20-foot radius. So we're expecting at least 2 creatures to have been hit by this. So we're going to say, we're going to put that in parentheses, we're going to multiply this times 2 for our best bet, and that should be 140 damage right there. Now on top of this, we also, again, have the Dreadblade Slash, so that's going to be times 3, giving us 76.5 for that. And then we have some spell casting moving down. We have Command and Phantom Steed at will, and then Destructive Wave, Necrotic, and Dispel Magic. Now, Destructive Wave, I'm going to have to look into this, so give me a few seconds here. Alright, so looking at Destructive Wave, it is basically a 5d6 plus 5d6 damage, and then the prone condition, which is probably excessively low. So let's go ahead and throw this in here. We're looking at, what was it, 5d6, so that's going to be... you know what? Let's just put this in. It'll be easier than me trying to try and think about it. 5d6 radiant, so 17.5. Okay, so we're going to say in parentheses 17.5 plus 17.5, or I could have just done it times 2, and then times it by 2 again for 2 failed saves worth of damage, plus the prone condition. So we're looking at 70-ish, which isn't terrible. It's pretty much on par with the multi-attack, a little lower, but it's good if you can get set up for it, but beyond that, I would probably avoid it. Everything else, Dispel Magic and Command, it's defensive, so like I've been saying in Tales of the Valiant, since it's defensive, it would counteract the difference in losing some DPR, and you would probably see like a balance there as well. So let's just go with the offensive capabilities and not worry about defensive. After that, we do have a parry. So our reaction here, we're going to throw in the parry for +1 effective AC bonus. And then we have legendary actions. We got 3 uses, and we can do Dread Authority. The Death Knight uses spellcasting to cast Command. The Death Knight can't take this action again until the start of the next turn. Fell Word, Constitution save, DC 18, 1 creature. Failure is a bunch of necrotic damage, and the target's hit point max is decreased by the amount equal to the damage. Failure or success, the Death Knight can't take this action again until the start of its next turn, so that's a 1-shot use as well. So, wow, they're really saying like, hey, yeah, wow, okay, so you're limited to using 1 of each or the lunge 3 times. Lunge is the Death Knight moves up to half its speed and makes 1 Dreadblade attack. So the Fell Word here, let's see here. Fell Word is going to be basically the same as the spell because we're looking at 17.5 and then timesing it by 2, but it is 1 creature, so it's not times 2 actually. But let's see here. So yeah, that's only going to be 35 for the Fell Word. So 35 times there, right there. We can do that once, but then we can also make a Dreadblade attack and do that 3 times. So this is basically the multi-attack again. More than likely, you're going to be better off just doing the lunge attack. And then finally, let's pull this all together and see what happens here. With our multi-attacks and our spellcasting, we're definitely going to go ahead and use the, the Hellfire Orb once. We are probably only going to see that once. And then we can do the multi-attack and times that by 2. And then we're also going to be doing this. So from the looks of things, even though this is supposed to be a CR 17, at the moment it appears that this is very overrated here, or underrated I should say. If we get rid of the, let's see what happens if we get rid of the legendary actions. Okay, now we're at a CR 17. So basically, don't use legendary actions if you want to keep this at a CR 17. I mean, otherwise, it's pretty much on point as it is. But for whatever reason, they either didn't account for the legendary actions or expected the legendary actions to be maybe one of each. But even then, it still goes higher than a CR 17. So, yeah, it looks like some of these monsters are still a little all over the place. And this does make the Death Knight more of like a soldier type, where the offense and defense are pretty much even though our offense is a little shy here. If we get rid of the legendary actions, we're looking at, you know, a soldier type. But if we put the legendary actions back in, and now we're up to a CR 20 with, you know, a definitely high OCR, offensive CR rating here. So our Death Knight now becomes more of a striker than a soldier. Yeah, so there we go. It goes, I don't remember exactly what the Death Knight was for the 2014 edition, if I even looked at the monster. I probably did. But in any event, yeah, there we go. Just don't use legendary actions. Use everything else, and you have yourself a CR 17 Death Knight. Otherwise, if you want to use legendary actions, use it at CR 20. Alright, thanks guys. Thanks everyone, and I will see you in the next video.